What about my love? Wasn't it enough? Just let me know.
Does college football need a player salary cap? Yes.
Yes, 100%.
I tend to agree.
This is, I mean, obviously that's how you avoid stuff like this happening, but, you know, to give a elaborated answer, not too long, because, you know, we've got other topics to get to. But, you know, it's kind of a, I don't want it to be like, oh, you can only pay quarterbacks the quarterback room should only be making this much and stuff like that. Nothing kind of similar along the lines of that. But it was like, for other guys in other schools, like Texas has Matthew McConaughey, who will constantly throw out millions for NIL.
Mm-hmm.
It's more so to get the cap. That way it's not the players having, you know, the entire franchise, the entire school in like a chokehold. And also avoid, you know, alumni like a Matthew McConaughey just being like, all right. Here's $5 million right here, you know?
Yeah, I think it should be with the salary cap, not the fact that everybody should make the same amount of money. It should be tiered. Like, the collectives all need to come together and be like, you can't just pay one player. You have to pay everybody on the roster. Are you guys willing to do that? Yes. Okay, so let's divvy up this money and let's pay out. All the starters get this amount. All the backups get this amount. The quarterback gets this amount. The edge rusher gets this amount. And it should be tiered by whatever scale that you want to use for statistics of what is the most valuable position that goes off to the NFL, and that's how you should tier your pay. And it could change depending on the success of NFL players. So it should be based, at least they have like a gauge of how much money can be thrown. Now, the amount of money that you get paid is definitely up to how much the collectives have there to give out. That's and that's going to vary from school to school. So the Ohio States and the Alabamas and the Georgias, they're going to be up on the top of the list. We all know this. But again, you can only hold 122 players on a roster. So, you know, Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State can't sign everybody. But that's how you avoid some of this.
That's also the way to make it like not as much of recruiting violations, but also just a way to kind of open up a bit more. Because if we're capping certain players, you kind of have to like really focus on what recruits do you want, and it's stuff for guys like, you know, recently people are been saying like, oh, you know, like you look at Billy Napier and it's like, you know, say what you want about him, but it's like, dude's a good talent evaluator. So that's the guy that's able to, and you know, I think it's like 97 or 98% of Florida's roster is via through the NIL deal, or like is already covered by NIL deals. So you know, you kind of look at him who goes through it, and people are like, you know, dude can coaching is questionable, but you know, talent evaluator not so much. And then, you know, you look at all the stuff that's going on with them, pretty much NIL wise, and how 98% of the roster is going through. I feel like if you kind of add a cap, that leads to other teams having to do that of being like, all right, you know, kind of like in College 25, how you can only have like 35 people on a list, and if they commit, then that opens up other parts and stuff like that.
Exactly. Yep, I see where you're going.
So you know, it's kind of like that, and that also opens up for one, recruits to go to other schools that they probably wouldn't go to, but you know, being able to bring those schools up into like playoff contentions and everything, and just opening up college football kind of wide open.
You open my brain to maybe a better idea. Everybody on the roster gets paid. If you're a starter, you get paid this. If you're a backup, you get paid this. There's no differentiation of pay when you come to the school. Now, the only thing that outside people that can do, so it's like you have to look at the collectives like this in each jurisdiction as like a GoFundMe, right? You can't outside pay the players anything. All the money has to go in this collective, and then it gets divvied out from there. But you have a certain amount of time to give up your donations before the season starts, because this is the money that this player is going to make. Caveat to that is that if Khalid is the starting quarterback and he decides that he wants to go and run a charity event or a book signing event or a autograph event, he is allowed to set the price for whatever amount of money that he wants to make, because that's his name, image, and likeness, right? I'm totally okay with that. You want to sell t-shirts, do your thing. That's totally fine. I also think that it would be okay if a dealership...
All right, Khalid, let's go.
If a deal,
Yeah.
I think a dealership can kick in and say, "Hey, we're going to send you this car." As long as it's not money, you could trade your likeness for items, but you can't trade your likeness for money unless you're doing it on your own time. You can't have somebody else feed it. Now, what we understand is going to happen is there's some underground stuff that's going to happen. People are going to pay them under the table. It was doing it. It was happening before NIL got there. We're not stupid. We all know that this was happening. But at least from the legal standpoint, you won't have the $4.5 million contract that Carson Beck is getting. More so, you get $800,000, and Carson Beck, if you want a free Lamborghini, we'll send you one. But we literally can't pay you we can't pay you that. But we can gift you things. We can gift you shoes. We can gift you services. We can gift you a free Chick-fil-A for a year. I think that's how you.
Hold on.
Well, I think that's how you
knock.
You knock down a lot of these outside guys, like just throwing money at people, like because it's again with J.D. Rashada. What happened, Sora? Tell us a story about J.D. Rashada. Let's walk down memory lane.
His daddy's dumbass got in the way. Is what happened.
No, but like, what had happened with his whole pay?
So originally he wanted to go to Florida.
Right.
This was before DJ Lagway and everything. This was before even Graham Mertz was there. He was going to go to Florida. This was right after Anthony Richardson left. He wanted more money. He didn't get that money, so he transferred over. Tried to bounce around a little bit, went to Arizona State.
Yeah, but who was
Couple
paying him
months
at Florida?
later-
Who was paying him? Wasn't it like a newspaper or something? Like
Yeah, it was something along the lines of that.
Yeah. That's what
Either
I'm
way,
saying.
the NIL wasn't much because this was Billy still trying to figure out the NIL at that point. A couple months later, sues Billy Napier and Florida and like the board and directors and all that stuff, or the boosters, not board and directors. Doesn't win, then transfers to Georgia, and they give more snaps to Carson Beck with one working arm than they did Rashada, and then he transferred again.
Yeah. A Torque said there won't ever be a cap on anything NIL contract agreements is how you fix it.
Yeah.
Now, how you fix all of this? Well, it's funny having the NIL conversation, right? And salary caps and things, but you're absolutely right. There's always going to be a loophole. The only way to fix this is to throw a W-2 at everybody that's a football player and say you have to pay your taxes on the money that you make because you're an employee of the university. That's the only way to fix this. And that gets real messy because it now turns into NFL junior. But that is, and people don't want college football to go in that direction. But really and truly, that's the only way to fix this is if kids are paying their taxes on this type stuff and everything. You're not going to be able to fix this outside of that. It's just, I've thought about this for a long time. That's the only way to do it.
But then you're going to have actual contracts binding you to a school.
Correct.
You're going to have to unionize. So the NFL has the NFLPA. You're going to have something like that for college athletes. How does the transfer portal work? Right? Like, how do you transfer if you're an employee of a university? All of these things. I mean, health insurance, like all of these policies, it gets very, very messy if that's the route that everything goes, because then you have to treat them literally like you said, like as employees. It's not just as simple as, oh yeah, that means you just sign a contract and you're bound to the school. There's just a lot more that would have to go on in the background.
The only contract that these guys can do from the collectives is say, you promised to be here X amount of years, but they're not bound to the contract legally. You can't do that with college athletes right now. So it's not like Joe Schmo, who was paying them Nico Iamaleava's like contract. He can't go and say, oh, I'm assuming he said he was going to be here. That's not how these contracts work. And they legally can't do that. And that's what makes it so complicated right now. Because if they could, there would be, I would say about 10% of the football players that get up and leave in the transfer portal, they'd be getting sued every single year. And we'd be having a different conversation about this right now. Like, wow, did you hear about Nico getting sued by the Tennessee's collective? Oh, he might not be playing football this year. Yeah, it would be crazy.